Sir, this all three orders, initial three orders, all are having definite conduct and all. But why it is so that human does not have that definite conduct? If nature is like that and everything has definite conduct, then it could have evolved in such a manner that human should also have that type of definite conduct itself. Then everything would be fine.
Yeah. So, when we were discussing about the nature as collection of units, and we saw that they can be classified in terms of 4 orders, right. Then the broad category that you can make in terms of the units in nature, there are 2 types of unit, the material unit and the consciousness unit, right. And in combination of this material and consciousness unit, we have 4 orders, right. So, if you look at it, it looks something like this, the nature which is collection of units, change करेंगे, okay, can be classified into these 4 orders, right. But basically if you look at them, it is in terms of first the material unit and the consciousness unit, okay. Write it down. So, if you look at the nature as collection of units, we have these material units and the consciousness unit. Right. And in combination of these 2 types of unit, we have 4 orders, right. So, let me get back to the main slide, that will give us an idea of it. Anyway, so let me just get here only. ठीक. And if you look at the material unit, okay, it is identified as having the response in terms of recognition and fulfillment. But if you look at the consciousness unit, it has this possibility of knowing, assuming, recognizing and fulfilling. Right. And this material order basically gives rise to physical order and pranic order. And in this pranic order, we have this animal body and human body. So, if you look at the animal and if you look at the human being, right, it is the coexistence of this animal body and consciousness is giving rise to animal order, and the coexistence between the consciousness, which is also called the self here, we have the human order. Right. So, if you look at the first 2 orders, the physical order and the pranic order, they belong to the material type, and this material type is characterized by recognizing and fulfilling, which is definite. So, this recognition and fulfillment is definite, therefore, their conduct is definite, right. So, we have to look at these 2 orders, the physical order and pranic order as material world, which is characterized by just recognizing and fulfilling, and therefore, their conduct is definite. right. So, this is the response. So, if you look at the human being now, the fourth order, okay. The first two orders are material in nature and their recognition and fulfillment is definite, therefore, their conduct is definite. The animal order is coexistence of the self and body. Therefore, it has the role of the self which has this knowing, assuming, recognizing and fulfilling. But if you look at the self of the animal, it largely goes by assuming, recognizing and fulfilling, and it has the assumption that it is body, right. So, therefore, it goes by this assumption that I am the body, and therefore, all the recognition and fulfillment is done on the basis of body, which is a material thing. So, in that sense, the recognition and fulfillment in the animal, though it is based on assuming, right, is definite because it has assumed itself to be the body and it is doing all its recognition and fulfillment on the basis of the body, which is material. But when it comes to human being, right, this assuming is more diverse. The human being is not able to assume itself fully to be body alone. So, that is the trouble, right. So, it is not able to assume itself to be body only, right. So, as long as it is assuming itself to be body only and recognizing and fulfilling, its conduct may sound to be different, to be definite, because the recognition and fulfillment at the level of body is definite. But when it starts thinking of it being something more than the body, right. So, then there are different types of assumptions, and we have seen when we are talking about the self that these assumptions are dependent on the preconditioning, on the sensation and also on self verification on the basis of natural acceptance, right. So, depending upon what is the source, you will have different assumptions. When you have different assumptions, your recognition and fulfillment will also become different. Therefore, your conduct will become different. So, the basic crisis of indefinite conduct in human being is not because of the body, but because of the self, and in this self it is because of assuming differently, okay, and therefore, recognizing and fulfilling differently. So, that is the cause of indefiniteness in the conduct of human being. So, if you look at all this indefiniteness, it has to do with the self and not the body. In the self, it has to do with the assumption, the assuming part, right. Now, how do you solve the problem? So, what we are saying that if knowing takes place, right. So, if this knowing takes place, this knowing is definite, and if the knowing has taken place, the assuming will be based on knowing, which will become definite on the basis of knowing, and therefore, the recognition and fulfillment will become definite, therefore, the conduct will become definite, right. So, the conduct of human being can also become definite by ensuring the knowing, ensuring the right understanding, and that is why we have been saying right from the beginning that right understanding is the most important thing for human being. So, right understanding in the self, not in the body, right, because body is just recognizing and fulfilling. The self is recognizing and fulfilling on the basis of assuming, which is based on knowing or not based on knowing, depending on whether the knowing has taken place or not. So, in that sense, this right understanding, the knowing is going to play the central role in case of human being. So, to sum up, okay, the indefiniteness of the conduct in human being is because of the indefiniteness in the self, which is because of the recognition and fulfillment of the self on the basis of assuming, right. The definiteness comes when the knowing takes place in the self, the right understanding takes place in the self. So, if knowing is there, right, then it is definite. Therefore, the assuming on the basis of knowing is also definite. Therefore, recognition and fulfillment is definite, and therefore, the conduct is definite. So, precisely speaking, the indefiniteness is because of the self, the consciousness, right, which is because of this assuming part, assuming without knowing. So, assuming without knowing this is indefinite, and with knowing it is definite. Therefore, recognition and fulfillment is indefinite without knowing and is definite with knowing. So, human being essentially has to work through this, okay. By its very given circumstances, it is going by assuming, recognizing and fulfilling, and therefore, indefinite conduct. Through education and sanskar, we can ensure knowing, we can ensure right understanding, and therefore, we can ensure definite conduct. That is why we also said time and again that education and sanskar is the most important activity for human being, because that is what ensures right understanding, the knowing, and that is what ensures the definite human conduct. Yeah.